Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, my friends. Good evening. This is Angy Stewart from InnerLight, and we are here live on Kardec Radio. It's January 2022. Welcome, everybody. Exciting to have a new year. Hopefully, we will be free from our buddy COVID soon. I can't stand this, but we have to go through it. So let's go through it in the best way possible. So just before starting, because of COVID, our Spiritist Center here in Miami, in Coconut Grove, had to go online until everything goes a little bit smoother again. So if you want to study Spiritism with us online on Tuesdays from 7 to 9, send me a message. Our group is very, very small. We are doing it through Zoom, and I can send you the link and you can participate with us. Okay? So before we start, where is your water? I have a lot of water here because I'm not feeling my 100%. So put your water there, and it will be blessed through the enlightened spirits throughout our study. So before we start, as always, let's close our eyes for a few seconds and let's do a quick prayer, okay? God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for another opportunity of being here online with our friends from so many places, from Miami, from the United States, from many other places in this beautiful world that will be watching our talk live or in the recording version. We ask the enlightened spirits to come closer to us, inspire us, helping us to get our thoughts together so we will be able to do a beautiful study that will inspire many hearts. Please stay with us now and always. So be it. So, my friends, excited to be here. We have two new guests today, and I will bring them little by little. So I'm bringing Danielle Peon right now. Hello, Danielle. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Really glad to be here with you today. Well, it's a very important moment to be talking about some specific topics we selected for you today. I'm really excited. Thank you so much, Angy, for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you here. So you are a contributor of Kardec Radio, and we love Kardec Radio. And Kardec Radio have been doing this online for much before the pandemic times. So we are ahead of time in this item. So super happy to have you here too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angy.
And we have Marcia Trajano. Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm fine, Angy. Hi, everyone. Very, very glad to be here to be able to contribute in this conversation.
Super happy to have you here too. So, Marcia now is in Nashville, Tennessee. That's amazing. So I'm sure soon you will start your new Spiritist Center.
Correct. We're doing exactly that.
We can't stop. We are unstoppable. Danielle, follow our steps.
Hope so.
You are minority here today. But this is really, really nice. And, this is an opportunity for, during COVID, people like you, Marcia, in Nashville,
Yes.
there is or if there is a Spiritist Center, is not like something that we know yet. And another thing, I'm here in Miami. Miami has so many Spiritist centers, but they are all closed due to COVID, including mine had to close too, because this Omicron is insane. Omicron is everywhere. So we have to protect the people, and we have to go online at least for some time. Hopefully things will get better soon. I can't wait. I'm a people person. And
Yeah.
that's the danger because I love to hug, I love to kiss. Not good during COVID, Angela. Not good.
But it's such a blessing that we have technology, and both of you, Angie and Daniel, have familiarity with working online with whatever channel, StreamYard, Facebook Live, whatever, right? So it's good that we can stay connected, it can stay together, even though we cannot hug and kiss.
Yes, no, it's totally true. It's totally true. And I was telling my friends because they were a little bit upset. They were waiting for all these weeks. I was in Brazil and like, oh, now we're gonna come back. And then boom, Omicron is a tough thing, but as exactly like you said, we all have to go through certain difficulties in life. They are opportunities to learn, and of
Mhm.
course we love to be together, but for now it's important to learn how to enjoy internet online.
Yeah. And by the way, do you remember when all the companies in the world had such a trouble with this, working from home thing, right?
Yes.
Even NGOs, everybody was like, I don't know, and boom, we're all forced to do that, and work
Exactly.
it well. In fact, most people now want to stay more at home
Yeah.
and not stay 5 days a week
To-
at some.
Totally
Yeah.
true. Even my company before, well, in my contract, I already had the working from home, but
Yeah.
before my co-workers, they had to have specific reasons. I'm going to a doctor
Yes.
to be able to be allowed to do. Now it's like it's like so it's true, and it's good also for companies and for workers. It's good
Can I
for.
say something though? I think it's what's coming to my mind, which is in line with the study that we're going to have today, right? It's the idea of how to be engaged, to be present, right? How to be authentic, even though we're not so close, because we tend to feel the other when we're face to face, but we are, I think, called upon, we're challenged to become the light. So maybe we can talk about being the light, or not hiding the light. What about that?
That's perfect. Start. Start. I will start just to all of you that are listening to us. So you might not be seeing us, but you're listening to us. We are going to start our study of the Gospel, chapter 24. The title is "Do Not Hide Your Lamp Under a Bushel." And as I always do, I will read a little tiny bit of our
Mhm.
chapter, and then I will open for our comments. And please let me open the chat too, so I can see any comments or any questions that are here. By the way, if you are listening to us, I cannot see your names because I'm not on Facebook or YouTube. I'm in StreamYard. So write something so we can say hello and we can read your questions or comments. So just to start, this piece that we are going to read right now, it is a piece that Jesus comment and the disciples were all together. So it's just for us to understand what is going on here. So I will read the portion. So his disciples approached him and asked, why do you speak to them in parables? Them is like the people, the group, the large group of people in parables. And Jesus answered, because to you, disciples, it has been given to know the mysteries of kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they neither hear nor understand. In them, the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled when he said, you will hear with your ears, but you will not understand. You will look with your eyes, but you will not see, because the hearts of these people have been deadened. Their ears have become deaf, and they have shut their eyes tight. Lest their eyes see, their ears hear, their hearts understand, and being converted, I may heal them. So this text sometimes is very confusing to people because people still can't understand. So the disciples were special people. The other people, the big group of people, they couldn't understand forever. So what can we start talking about? What is the meaning of this text? What do you guys
Mhm.
think? How can we start?
Well, if I may share some thoughts, is that, well, the disciples somehow they were prepared, right, in comparison to the overall,
Correct.
population of the place, right? And making this comparison of what we are having today and what we spoke about technology, I think everything has a time, and everything has a time to happen. So if Jesus was, first of all, Jesus was just talking in parables about abstract things. So when it was things that were very direct, he was direct too. Things that were simple,
Correct.
like forgiveness, love each other. So these concepts are there. But when there was abstract ones, he has to go, with parables so they could understand. If Jesus would not do that, what would happen is that it would create scaries, could create chaos, right? Because the people were not prepared to receive that. So in the same way, I would think we could also dialogue a little bit about that. As a spiritist, we should follow the same steps and think about our behavior when talking about spiritism, to see, I should I open to somebody who is not open to it, or ready to it, or should I go as Jesus and be ab- the, to go into abstract concepts. And because to talk about love and forgiveness and charity, we can talk to everyone, but
Yeah.
about these more abstract concepts, should I go with the people who are more open into that? So I think that's
And
my
my thoughts,
summary.
yeah, no, this is very good, Daniel. And my thoughts when you're talking is it just started several lines. So
Sure.
let me try to be very precise. Number one, the first thing that when you said was the disciples versus the remaining of the population, and it immediately came to mind the fact that perhaps Spiritism, right? Spiritists, you and me, who are studying this amazing body of work, which is it enriches us and makes us better prepared to deal with life and life after life, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Not everybody is ready, as Angie said. So maybe we could do a correlation that the disciples are the spiritists, right? And the remainder of the population is anybody else who's not a spiritist. So I think there's that the difference in because I am talking to you, my disciple have been with Jesus, learning right firsthand, so they're better prepared to understand more abstract thoughts and knowledge in a even in a more abbreviated manner. Whereas if you're not prepared, those who are not spiritists, perhaps we could say, then there is a different language. What type of language? And you mentioned parables. Love the idea because that's my second thought. From a parable perspective, what is it? Is the use of metaphors, symbols, right? And in this case, in the case of Jesus, as we all know, what were the symbols and the metaphors that he used? The day-to-day lives. If you're a fisherman, he talks about the fish. If you're a farmer, so on and so forth. But what's important is that it became a long term, accessible in a long term, because the stories were orally transmitted, right? So they went from generation to generation, and those vivid imagery stay true instead of having to put in onto paper and then passed on in a different type of knowledge. So I think it's very interesting for us to talk about it. The this concept of transference of knowledge and learnings from Jesus to those two people in the use of that type of language. Angie, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's exactly what happens to us. For example,
Mhm.
for us spiritists, they already study spiritism for some time, or at least people that are more
Mhm.
open to spirituality.
Mhm.
It's very easy to talk about reincarnation,
Sure.
mediumship, past lives. This is like super easy. But to
Uh-huh.
people of other religions, other beliefs, or people that do not have any belief, for them this is very abstract. It's almost like a fantasy. So it's very difficult. But we have to admit that there are people that have the seed inside. They are not,
Mhm.
they don't have a religion or whatever, but when you talk about certain aspects, they are like they are borderline curious and accepting it naturally. So this is interesting too. Now, when we go
Mhm.
back to the disciples, if we talk about it in terms of a reincarnation, yes,
Mhm.
they were chosen by Jesus and they lived with Jesus for that period of time that was
Mhm.
6 years that Jesus was teaching them. But they were prepared before the reincarnation.
Correct. Correct.
Were
Mhm.
spirits chosen to reincarnate in that time in very simple conditions. Most of them were fishermen, as you mentioned, but they were prepared in the spiritual world. So they had that seed within them. So when Jesus arrived and he meets Peter and his brother, he just said, "Come with me. Stop being a fisherman to fish, but are you gonna
Mhm.
fish men from now on?" And they
Hmm.
said,
Mhm.
"No, they went." I was like,
Yes. and, and
prepared.
yeah,
I was
and just
thinking, are you kidding me? You tell me this, I'm gonna lose my job? No way. But
yeah, it
because
was
they
amazing.
were already prepared. So when Jesus arrived, and of course, with his energy that was like a super magnetizing, they were
Yes.
like, that's the man we are waiting. And of course, through the text here, we can also understand that in the time, the Hebrew population was already
Mhm.
prepared for one God. They were waiting for the Messiah. So they were already their whole culture was prepared for that. But it's very beautiful the way you both put together to our nowadays, correlating spiritism and certain knowledge, because
Hmm.
it's that's exactly what
Yeah.
it's happening to us. Beautiful.
And just adding a little bit more, a little seed on that, when another correlation, besides the preparation that
Mhm.
as we mentioned, from the apostles to on that, I think when it seems a pathway of education that Jesus does, because he sent John Baptist first,
Mhm.
right? So to create this this a common background, so the people could receive better
Mhm.
what he was saying, because he knew that he, or at least it seems to be clear for us that it's necessary to have this pathway of introducing the knowledge. It's the same with spiritism. If to make the correlation, we have Allan Kardec in the beginning, and then we have Chico Xavier, and then we have
Mhm.
Vivaldi and many other coming. So it's like spreading, blooming in certain
Yes.
way. So I think it's probably makes sense if Jesus is doing that, and we see that this is happening in a certain way, and we should also do it the same way.
Yeah. Daniel and Angie, can I revert the conversation a little bit to the beginning of the chapter? I know that you start reading the third, but this chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism starts with Matthew, I think is chapter 5, verse 15, and then Luke, is it Luke?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
Yes.
Matthew, the first
and
one.
yeah, and Luke, right? And they both talk about the the candle or the lamp under the bushel, right? Don't hide the light. And then immediately they talk about the third one, which you read to everyone, which is the idea of speaking using parables, and how odd, right? How odd it is to us today. And we talk about we Westerners, we 21st century, right? 21st century, and we live in this country where the language English is very direct, so different from that language that was used from a parable. But then when you talk about the first two stories, we were told, or the message is, be the light, be knowledge, be clear, don't hide, right? And then he talks in parables. And I always love those hidden paradoxes, right? What are you talking about? This is the yin and yang, the paradox of, you say, do not be obscure, but then you are obscure with your language, right? And so I just thought maybe we could talk a little bit about it here between the three of us.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's excellent because when it's a for example, we can give an example.
Mm-hmm.
Parents have to teach their kids, but some parents, they have kids of different ages. One is in college and one is in first grade, so they need to teach both kids about
Mm-hmm.
the same subject, but the way these parents are going to talk to the first grade kid has to be different from the way of the college kid, because the
Mm-hmm.
college kid is an adult or very close to
Mm-hmm.
be an adult, so
Yes.
his mind is already prepared to understand much more. The little one, the young one, it's not yet, so you have to give like you have to flourish, or you
Mm-hmm.
cannot give the message directly because it would be difficult to understand. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something that the Jesus was doing. So the disciples were like the college kids, and the rest of the population, they were still in first grade, but they could also learn. We always can learn, but
Mm-hmm.
if we think about it, we have to explain in a little bit easier way, or maybe with not so many details, in a way that this kid can still understand. And also fantasizing, because when Jesus gave the parables, Chico Xavier mentioned one time that Emmanuel told
Mm-hmm.
him that when Jesus went to the mount to talk, there were thousands of people far away. And people far away couldn't really hear all the words. But because they were there, the energy of Jesus was so strong. They were
Uh-huh.
involved, they were surrounded in that positive energy. And from their minds, they were having like a movie, like in their own mind, they having a movie, an inspiration about what Jesus was mentioning. Because I always question, like, are you kidding me? When you look at the movie, Jesus is like this, and people are super far away. They can't hear. And when Emmanuel came and explained, I was, aha! Yeah,
That's right,
yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah. Daniel, do you have any thoughts about that? I
No,
love the analogy. Yeah, go ahead.
uh-huh. No, yeah, as I mentioned before, when it was something that was easy, the concept, he was clear, right? Jesus was always
Mm-hmm.
clear. But when it was
Yeah.
something abstract, then he would, because as we always have to adapt to the audience, right? Imagine a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
talking to a huge audience, or a scientist, right? Even
Yeah.
today, I think in 92, it was the first IPCC, was the first scientists together to talk about climate change. And they
Mm-hmm.
said at that time that was 85% certain. For a scientist, this is absolutely good. 85% is too much. But for the audience, oh, it's 15%, so it's not. So it depends on how you also say. You have to adapt the language always, otherwise you lose your audience. And Jesus
Yeah.
already knew that. So
Yeah.
he was doing just what we should also do. Yeah, but
Yeah. So
always
to
with
me,
love.
right. So to me, the lesson of this discussion here is a lesson of tolerance and acceptance, right? So Jesus says, shine your light to what you know, right? And this is to me a call for action for us. If I say I am a spiritist or I'm curious about spiritism, I'm studying spiritism, and so we're accessing this fountain of knowledge, I should have the light with me and not be so concerned, right, with the different audiences. Use that knowledge, transfer the knowledge, but in a way that is inclusive. So I love this passage so much, and he goes on and on and on, but it's always woven, in my opinion, into that idea of acceptance, idea of tolerance, idea of widespread um, uh, access to information, right? If I'm what did you say, first grade kid or college student, we're still talking about whatever the subject may be.
Yes. Hello, Yvonne. Nice to have you here. We are enjoying too, not just you. We are enjoying too. I'm completely enjoying. And it's true. And when Daniel talk about Jesus many times he spoke directly, it is
Mm-hmm.
true. When he had to talk about charity, forgiveness, love each other, was direct. There was no parable there. But when
Mm-hmm.
the subjects were a little bit more confusing for them, that's when he gave this ideas of these parables that the people had to think. They might not be able to grasp everything at that moment, but that's why later on came the disciples and the groups, like the study groups, when they got together to discuss about what Jesus said. And that's when people start having my aha moments. So
Can
this is
I give a personal example, Angie?
sure.
All right. So I come from a very, very, very Catholic family, right? And I became a spiritist in the US. So about 35 years ago. No, I'm sorry, about 20 years ago. So I go back home, visit my father. And of course, at the time, 20 plus years, I had a whole suitcase with books, spiritist books. And so my dad opens and he goes, oh, why so many lies? What are you doing? Right? And he said that, and I respected him. He's my dad. This was in the 90s. And about 2 years ago, almost to the date, my mom passed away, right? And I spent time with him. And that week, that was so difficult for him, all we talked about was spiritism,
Wow.
reincarnation, what happens, life after death, all those concepts that 2 decades prior he blatantly said, why are you spending your time? And I thought this is an example of what we're talking about. It may take decades, it may take lifetimes. When we're ready, we'll be able to listen and hear to the message.
Wow.
Exactly. This is so beautiful. Very similar to me. I also became
Mm.
this in the US.
Uh-huh.
The mediumship started in Brazil, and
Mm-hmm.
my whole family Catholic. My poor mom, she didn't understand. She was like, "Oh my God, we need to find a psychiatrist before you move." And I remember telling her, "But mom, I do see them." Oh my God, that's what crazy people say. I'm like, oh God, that's a problem. So I stopped talking about my
Uh-huh.
feelings to my parents, but but God is so good. They guide me to go to visit a friend that I haven't seen in 10 years. And when I
Yeah.
arrived there, the first thing they asked was about my mediumship. And I was like, because we were also Catholic, but
Yes.
at the time they became Spiritists, and they were the ones who helped me to understand
Oh,
that I was
awesome.
crazy. But for my parents, it was very difficult too. And then every time I went to Brazil, I also bought so many books, because in the US, I didn't know many Spiritist people. It was like crazy. I became Spiritist few months before moving here, and then I moved
Mhm.
here. I didn't know any Brazilians. I did my whole family, my husband's, they are all Americans, so they had no idea what is that. So I started learning online
There
20
you go. There you go.
ago. Isn't that crazy? But in that
Yes.
time, didn't exist Google, so I only had a website, and that's it. There was nothing else. That's it. And anyway, my whole family that lives in Goiás. My parents were in Rio. In Goiás, everybody Catholic, and nobody wanted to talk about Spiritism, because it was like, I'm the witch of the family, so don't talk about it. But
Uh-huh.
my grandmother, who was the personal assistant to the priest,
Uh-huh.
she's the one who came to me, and she came to ask me. She asked me, my darling, what is this thing of Spiritism? And then I explained, and she said, but do you believe in Jesus? I said, of course, Grandma, of course. Oh, so it's good. I'm like, yeah, it's good. Oh, fine, so it's good. But all her daughters and kids, nobody wanted to talk about it. And I
Yeah.
always say my grandmother, the oldest one, is the one that had the mind more open than everybody. So that was like amazing. But Marcia, usually is like this. When we have pain, we open up to things that we never thought about before,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we have to step out of our comfort zone. So we're like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that? Why do you like it? Tell me
Mm-hmm.
about it. And then this person is really opening to listen.
Mhm.
It's like it's the time around. Exactly as you mentioned, everything has a time. As coming back to our subject, do not hide the light under the bushel. Just
Yeah.
because you are a spiritist, and we
Mm-hmm.
always say we have all this knowledge of the afterlife,
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean that we can go to everybody and start with a microphone. I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. Because the first thing is going to happen is that it's going to look like we are crazy, or we are obsessed, or we are that person that only sees our point of view. So it's important for us to talk about it in a way that's very open, very accepting of the differences, because people immediately will construct a wall. Oh, reincarnation, this is something from the devil, because some religions think about like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's important for us to talk about the things we have in common. And then they start like, oh, so it's not that bad. No, you believe in Jesus. Oh, okay, not that dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we start like making like bridges, and
Mm-hmm.
little by little. And of course, it's wonderful when someone comes and asks for something, because then it's great. That person wants to genuinely would like to understand, and we are not imposing anything in anyone. This is the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of spiritism.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritism does not impose anything. You are free to even have a different religion and follow spiritism at the same time. In our spiritist center in New York, we had a few people, they were Jewish, and they
Mm-hmm.
came to the spiritist meetings. I was like, wow, that's really
Wow.
cool,
That's
because
very
Mhm.
cool. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very hard. Jewish people, they don't even believe that Jesus is a Messiah. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
spiritism.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
this is really really nice. And what about our time is finishing so quickly, because when we have fun, it finishes quickly. What can we talk about this message that Jesus gave to do not go to Gentiles? So it's important for us to explain what the Gentiles are, so the people can actually know what are the Gentiles, because a lot of people don't even know. One of you would like to talk about the Gentiles, or I can talk.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so very basic, very simple to everybody
Mhm.
to understand. In the time of Jesus, the Gentiles were all the different populations that they were not Hebrew. All the different populations, the Romans, the Greeks, that they did not believe in one God only. So the Gentiles were the ones who believed in many gods, like Romans and the Greeks, for example. They were like the ones closest to them. So this is what the Gentiles were. So Jesus was teaching the disciples, do not go to the Greeks and the Romans with these teachings yet.
Yes.
Why?
Mhm.
Why?
Well, because it's get even more difficult, right? To because if if you believe in one God, is that you have to starting with the same principle, right? It's the same as to talk about the spiritism with some religion which has Jesus as Lord, as a Christ, other than to talk about with others. There is some difficulties on that. Not all, but if you start already with the same background, it's easier, right? So if you go to the Gentiles, in my belief, they will not look with the goodwill as the others could do, right? Because they are not open, because they see, wow, you're talking all that, and you also say that my God doesn't exist, right? Because my God is Mercury, or Mars or something, and then complicates everything.
And I think, if I may, the connections are coming during this conversation, so really appreciate it. Do you remember? Do you recall that Angie was talking about the image of the Sermon on the Mount, right?
Yes.
No microphone, no speakers, and yet, we're providing that amazing gift from Jesus' teachings from there. And I think when you start talking here, Daniel, is the fact that if you think in terms of intellectual exchange only, it becomes a very ineffective, inefficient way to share the light, to share the knowledge. So not only the like we just discussed, it may take 20 years for somebody to ask about spiritism when you're ready, either because you're in pain or because at that moment you're not doing a intellectual battle, but you speaking with love to that person, then the connection happens. With Jesus at the time, when we're talking about the Gentiles, is the idea. This is how I interpret. Uh, if at the time of Christianity, with the early Christians, the concept or the focus of Jesus and his teaching was not expansion of the religion, right? It was not to become across the globe for everyone. The focus was to touch everyone's heart, like in the Sermon on the Mount. It's touch with the energy, with touch with the transformative nature. Therefore, later that would happen much easier with the
Mhm.
Gentiles.
Yes.
And also because they were
Mm-hmm.
prepared, as
Mm-hmm.
Angie was mentioning, right? So several times Jesus mentioned in the Bible that, not only in the Gospel of Spiritism but in Bible, that
Mm.
Jesus came for the Hebrews, right? They came for the
Yeah.
people in Jerusalem, and so
Yeah.
all those were prepared since Moses and the
Mm-hmm.
prophets, everybody who was in the region. So it's easier to get when you have everybody, already prepared for centuries. Then
Mm-hmm.
you start from zero, from the
Mm-hmm.
Gentiles. That will
Yeah.
be ineffective for the apostles. Yeah.
And a beautiful thing also is that Jesus knew the Gentiles' time would come, and not
Correct.
much later,
Hmm.
because Paul, that used to be Saul. If you guys haven't read the book, Paul and Stephen, please read. Yvonne, I don't know if you have read this book. It's a blessing. And this
Hmm.
tells us the details of this beautiful trajectory of this person that was called Saul, and he transformed himself and became Paul, one of the biggest apostles after the death of Jesus. So Saul was basically he, he was almost like a Gentile because he grew up amongst the Roman culture, even if he was a high hierarchy. Can I say that? In
Yes, the high ranking. Yeah.
Yeah, in the
Hmm.
Hebrew society, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was really encroached there with the Romans, so he knew deeply how their system worked. So he was the one that was more prepared. He had a lot of knowledge. He was
Hmm.
basically the lawyer, the big judge of that time. So he was well instructed in many languages. So he was more reachable to this type of people, of society, and he
Hmm.
really was able to penetrate their society and spread the good news amongst them. But
Hmm.
what I said is that everything has a time, exactly as we were talking through. You
Hmm.
in the time of the disciples, it was not, they were not prepared yet, but then a new disciple came, and he had a background that would be easier to
Hmm.
approach them. And of course time had passed, and the things were better for that. So this is beautiful that the things get connected with time. We are the ones, we always want to do things now, in this minute. And we get desperate if it's not working, and then we want to quit. Oh, it's not working, let's quit. And the things are not like that. If we think about the Chico Xavier, that he was alone in the Spiritist Center for
Hmm.
months and months and months. I don't remember now exactly how long, but people used to think he was crazy because he was giving lectures alone. And then Emmanuel later on told him that during all the months that he spent alone giving lectures in a room, the spirits reincarnated and became the children of his future Spiritist Center. So that
Wow.
was so
It's
interesting.
amazing. Yeah, it's
So
amazing.
so, nothing is wasted. We think we are wasting our time. For example, we are doing this in English. And a lot of people come to me and they say, why you do it in English? Americans will never grasp it. I'm like, what? What? We like that. We do need to do it in English because that's the only way we can help to spread this. And we are in America. Yes, we could do in Portuguese. We would have Brazilians from Brazil, from anywhere. But this is not the main goal. The main goal is really to plant the little tiny seed. And one day, in 10 years, 20, 100 years, they will be able to reach to this kind of conversations that we are having right now, and like, aha.
That's awesome. Yes.
Oh, I really love this text. We have to go to our other one, but just before we change books,
Hmm.
really quickly, the healthy do not need a doctor. I love this passage. Really quickly, what can we talk about it?
Well, to me, it's again, it's the purpose of Christianity, especially the early Christianity, was not to expand with the intellect, it's to those who are suffering. And the passage is Jesus came here for those who need him.
Yes.
right? Not for those who are already healthy. So the whole chapter is about reaching out to everyone,
Yes.
right? All of this.
Exactly.
I
Daniel?
agree.
Y-
I agree. I
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
And it's beautiful because, as always, people are always judgmental, and that's
Mm,
exactly what happened. They start judging Jesus and asking the disciples, why your master is eating with the publicans, the prostitutes? Why?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Jesus heard, and he's like, I didn't come here for you. I came here for the ones who really need me. The ones
and
who are already open to understand, to change, to improve. So this was really, really, really nice. And we need to have faith. I'm just finalizing the chapter. We need to
mhm,
have faith, and we need to bear our crosses. It's not because we believe in Jesus, because we believe in spiritism, that we are not going to have problems. We
mhm,
will have, but with Jesus, our crosses will be lighter. We will be able to go through the same difficulties in a better way. I'm not saying
mhm,
we're going to have problems, but it will be easier to digest with our faith, understanding that this is not our only life. If we die, we will come back again in a much better version. I
Hmm.
prove the one. Oh, this is the beauty of spiritism. It's really beautiful. I love this conversation with you guys. It was so dynamic, but super cool. My friends, we are moving to this book. What is Spiritism? If you guys have the book, we are in chapter 1, and the passage is Forgetfulness of the Past. This is super interesting because a lot of people come to me and they mention, oh, I don't understand it. Why do I have to suffer for something I did in a previous life and I don't remember? And it's very common question. I used to say the same thing. So I do not judge anyone. So let's try to read quickly certain items and then we can comment. So Daniel, could you read the yellow portions only of the
Sure.
visitor, and then
Sure.
read and comment the answers?
Sure. Visitor. How people can benefit from the experience acquired in their past lives if they cannot remember them. Each new existence is as if it were the very first, and therefore they are always having to start all over again. But since we do remember our wrongs, our imperfections, and the punishments we have incurred, we make sure that we do not have to start all over again. What we may conclude is that our memories die with each existence. Hence, we are born without any awareness of what we have been.
Very good. So this is basically a question that a lot of people ask. A lot of
yeah.
people don't understand. A lot of people say, "Well, but we're gonna forget. What is the benefit? I don't understand." This is very common question. Have you anyone have ever asked this to you guys?
Um, not to me, but I
No.
understand, right? Again, it's those two, this chapter and the last chapter of the gospel, which talks about, um, what does it mean to be spiritism, to understand in paradox. And the paradox here is, how can you say you're spiritist and you believe reincarnation, and to prove, right, if you study reincarnation, one of the biggest proofs of that is some of the children that remember the past, and yet all of us, the majority of us, don't remember. So it's almost like, how can you tell me something that you're so sure when you don't understand? But then if you could, and I don't know if you went through too fast, If you could just before you started with the answer, Angie, yeah, right there. The less this last little sentence is it is a kind of nothingness,
Mhm.
and it's a very profound and small sentence that it is decoupled or discussed further in many of the books, the introduction, the spiritist book, in the medium's book, right? The
Mhm.
whole concept of nothingness
Yes.
or nihilism, right? And
Yes.
nihilism, which is the idea that once you die, there's nothing more. And I think this is so important to be able to be here talking about this chapter and the meaning of the good and the bad and the ugly about forgetful of the past.
Hmm.
That's true. That's true. So, Marcia, can you read the answer, the portions of the answer of Kardec?
Okay, let's do this. So, Kardec answers all the objections you have raised are natural for someone who knows nothing about it.
Exactly.
What,
Not about it.
right? What appears to be an anomaly that is contrary to God's justice and wisdom seems completely natural and confirms such justice and wisdom. So again, it's he brings the paradox, right?
Exactly.
If with every existence a veil is thrown over the past, the spirit loses nothing of what it acquired in the past. It forgets only the way in which it acquired it, right? The way in which it was acquired. This is very important to me to understand. Upon reincarnating, persons bring through intuition and innate ideas what they have acquired in knowledge and morality.
That's very, very, that's a key point also.
Mhm. Matured in the school of suffering and through work, their spirits will be stronger.
So this point here is very good
Mhm.
for us to explain because
Okay.
Kardec is from the 1800s. So he
Mhm.
makes suffering, suffering.
Mhm.
But in
Mhm.
reality, it's not suffering, it's pain. It's the pain that we all have to go through. So
Mhm.
through pain, through difficulties, to hard times, we go through things, and we have understandings of what we went through. Not necessarily in that incarnation we accept that in a good way, but when we know that when we discarnate and we go to the spiritual realm, we have a clear vision of what happened, why it happened, what were my actions, were they good, what I did wrong. So if we bring to our daily lives, many times
Mhm.
through pain we open up, as you just mentioned, your
Mhm.
father, when he was
Mhm.
in a painful moment, he finally opened up to say, what is that? What is the spiritism? So through pain, we many times we open up and we learn about the other items. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, and it's awesome. If I may add another metaphor, right? Pain means the learning that is acquired through pain is the same as the challenge that you overcome. Joanna de Angelis in the book The Psychology of Gratitude, she talks a lot about it, and she often talks about the baby, right? That is learning, and if you think in terms the baby when it's learning, the toddler actually learning to walk is
Mhm.
actually is the through the falls that it perfects the ability to walk, right? And by the way, this is a geeky thing I'm going to tell everyone. um, Neuroscientists and people that create the gurus in the world of technology that talk about robotics, they say, robotics and neuroscientists and all of this talk a lot about vision and how we can emulate humans' vision. Very few study walk. Have you seen robots walking, dancing, or running. Very difficult. So it's very interesting that the baby articulates that knowledge so soon in a very young life through suffering.
Yes. That's good. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Okay, I don't know where I am. So, yes,
Sure.
this forgetfulness takes place only during corporeal life. Upon leaving it, the spirit recovers the memory of its past and can then judge the path it has taken and what will still remain for it to do.
So, what can we comment about this portion?
Well,
Daniel, feel free to talk too.
yes, there's a lot to comment. I think one of the most important parts is this uh, is this battle, not a battle, but this different conception about memory and because the visitor he's asking about, okay, why we don't we have this memory of past lives, why we don't
Hmm.
have this knowledge. I knew a language, I born and I know the language, makes sense,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but then what Kardec tries to bring it is okay. It's not about the full complete memory of things, but these innate ideas, this intuition that comes together. For instance, talent for piano or talent to acquire new language. For instance, if you have learned before other language or math or whatever, any kind of innate aptitude or innate ideas. And also, if we do also another comparison, imagine a person who in some point in this person's life, the person life, it loses memory, right? Doesn't remember everything. It continues to have its morality, it continues to know how to speak, it continues to have some knowledge, right? So I believe it's in the same way. So we lose track of things we have done in the past because according to God's wisdom and law, it makes a lot of sense. And as Kardec says, it makes a lot of sense to forget things we have done in the past. Because if we think that this is our best version and we already made a lot of mistakes this life, imagine what we have done before. I don't want to know, really. If I die, I say, keep it easy. Maybe just some highlights. Don't throw me the whole way. I don't want to know the whole thing, because it's too bad. For sure, it's too bad, right?
Hmm.
And because it's thousands and thousands of lives, so it's impossible to not have make big mistakes. Not impossible, but we are here, right? We are here. We are not on another planet. And so I think this is the main part of the main concept, the important part of this, the answer is this difference between innate ideas, intuition, and that we never lose our learnings.
And
Um,
Daniel, I think it's implicit in Kardec's answer to the visitor's question, right? That the what versus the how. And I think you alluded to that, right? So
mhm.
it's innate from a previous life because you retain the content, the what, even though you may not remember how in the world did you acquire that knowledge before this.
Yes.
So I think it's very interesting. It's a very subtle, but it's there in the
Yeah,
text.
I have a
Hmm.
personal
Hmm.
story to tell. There was a friend of my first girlfriend, mother-in-law. Woo. Okay, but
Uh-huh.
this person, there is a toddler, and
Uh-huh.
and they have in a family a dog, and they lost the dog, so they died. The dog died, and so she was in the kitchen, and suddenly, the the, the they were like thinking what they would do with the dog. The dog was dead, and talking with the husband, and then when she arrived at the living room, the kid was like full of butter, and the dog was like, in this position, like with the paws like that, and
Hmm.
and she saw that, and it's totally seems Egyptian thing, and she said, where did you what are you doing? I don't know, I just knew what I have to do. A toddler, like putting butter, like mummification in a dog. So
Yeah,
it's amazing things. There's like a 4 years
yeah.
old playing piano like, a
Yeah.
35 musician.
Yeah.
It's just crazy things that happen. It's just these examples, right? There's so many
Mhm.
examples in the Hindu culture also. There's so much
Mhm.
thing. But Kardec doesn't need to go that way. It's a long answer, but he can explain how the concept was in reverse. It is a blessing to forget, right? And not as the
Exactly.
visitor was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I said. I believe I said it earlier. The two chapters, right, with the gospel and this one, it's he brings the opposing discussions. How in the world? What is it reincarnation? Right? What is your spiritism? And you forget. How can you explain that you truly reincarnate? And he goes on and on and on about the blessing and how God, our Father, is truly a merciful Father,
Yes.
because through that forgetfulness, it will allow us to be today the best version of ourselves.
Yes.
Hence, we don't have to look into all the mistakes, all the issues that we had in the past, and it's full of mistakes. It's not out of uh, difficult or evil tendencies. It's just because we did not know any better, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And yet those mistakes are in the past. We need to focus in learning, not in regret. It comes naturally with the law of
Mhm.
cause and effect, right?
Beautiful.
Yes.
It's perfect because that's exactly what it is about. We
Mm-hmm.
forget momentarily, but it's there. It's in our
Mm-hmm.
minds, and whenever
Mm-hmm.
we need, it will come. And
Mm-hmm.
there are so many examples. And for also Dr. Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia, he researched thousands of little
Yes.
kids who actually remember, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very connect with spiritism, because Dr. Ian Stevenson realized the very young ones have the memories, but when they get a little bit older, 7, 9, then they forget,
Correct.
because they usually they died in a traumatic way and they reincarnate really quickly, sometimes to the same country, the same city. So this is very interesting, and everything we learn is there. The good things are there, and the bad things are there too. We will remember, but the good things is good because it's a learning, it's an improvement, it's something positive. And the negative things are there because one day we will have to remember and do not repeat that mistake. We will face our enemies from the past, and we will be put in situations that we will have to love instead of hating. And it's a blessing that we don't remember so many bad things we did. And I'm going to just share the last paragraph because it's so beautiful. So the last paragraph says, disagrees perfectly with Spirit's doctrine about worlds that are more highly evolved than ours. On such a worlds where only the good reigns, remembers of the past is not at all painful, because these spirits who lived in the beautiful elevated worlds, they are pure. So for generations and generations, incarnations and then reincarnations, they have done only good. They haven't done anything bad because they evolved. It will be us in
Mm-hmm.
1,000 years, we will be just good. We will be just love and light, always spreading good things. So it will be not necessary to forget because everything will be good. So, and then he continues. That is why spirits on them can remember their previous lives as easily as we remember what we did yesterday. As for the sojourns they may have made on lower worlds, they are nothing more than a bad dream. So for the enlightened spirits, they probably remember what they did in the past because they are enlightened, but they learn, these are lessons learned. For us would be too painful because we are not evolved yet to grasp this and continue doing well. Imagine if let's suppose, imagine if I know that I had killed my brother in my previous life and now we are brothers. Would it be difficult for me and for my brother? So
Yeah.
that's why it's a blessing that we don't remember our painful times. But it's a blessing also that quickly I remember that I could speak so many languages and I didn't even need to go to school.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
So that was a blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Guys, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was awesome. We have to repeat. You guys are hot stuff. Yes, yes,
You're
yes,
so cool.
yes. So in such a high energetic level, let's end with a prayer. Marcia, could you pray for us?
Yes, absolutely. So let us perhaps close our eyes and take this moment to connect with all that is good, connect with our spirits of light, our guardians, our mentors, and all the beneficent spirits that are here present, enlightening, guiding, inspiring the work that has been done, inspiring Angy and Daniel, and immersing all of us in a warm embrace. Dear Lord, thank you for all that we have received already, and may we all be beacons of light, sharing our knowledge, sharing all that we have already received to those that need. So be it.
So,
So be it. My friends, it was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Daniel. It was awesome. Yes, yes.
so cool. Thank you so much. It was a
Marcia, it
pleasure.
was
Thank you.
really nice. Thank you so much for your time. And all of you, my friends that are listening to us via Kardec Radio, come back, come back, come back. There are so many beautiful programs. This is only one of them. And I hope to see you again next month. Mwah! Thank you. God bless you all.